there, it's Jen, and I have a new layout for you today using the Elle Studio July kit. And I am starting with these 5 photos from a little trip to the zoo that we took. And I think that this is a really fun, this layout shows a fun way to use a bunch of photos on one layout. So I have my focal photo or my main photo printed at 3x4, and then the other 4 photos are printed at 2x3. And what I'm doing now is I'm cutting some patterned papers from the Sunny Days collection, and I'm cutting them at a little bit of an angle. You can see I'm turning the paper there in my trimmer. And what I'm going to do is layer these up to create like a whole bunch of pockets. So I cut this stripy paper up thinking I would use that size of it, but I actually end up using the other side, which is a wood grain. So you'll see that here. I chose these colors because they were bright and fun and summery, and my photos include a lot of colors, but they're not super busy, like color-wise. They have a lot of neutral in them, so it was easy to include a lot of different colors. And then that yellow paper with the dots on it kind of looks like a cheetah print, so I felt like I needed to include that on the zoo page. So I'm just kind of layering up those papers, and I'm tucking in my photos in a bunch of different areas, just trying to see how I can kind of make these look good on the layout where they're all together there. So I'm going to play around a bunch with the placement of the photos, and I want to make sure that none of them touch each other. And then I kind of thought that I wanted to move everything down a little bit and have more white space at the top. So I cut a little bit off of that bottom yellow paper, and now I'm going to move all of my layers down, and I'm toying with the idea of sliding in some of the 3x4 cards from the kit in behind some of the photos just to help them stand out a little bit more. And before I do anything, what I decided to do was go ahead and put down all of those layers. I like the way they're looking, and the way I'm doing this is I'm just putting a little bit of double-sided adhesive tape, that's from ThermoWeb, on the bottom of each layer, so it's still a pocket. You can still slide stuff underneath it. So I will just put adhesive on the bottoms of all of my layers, and then I'll just slide them kind of in together. And I'm making it so that some patterns are showing a little bit more than others, and just kind of getting a varied look here. And I like the way that these kind of all come together. Now this is where I'm kind of deciding that I need a little bit more neutral, and so when I flipped this over, I really was liking the wood grain better, so I decided to go ahead and instead of using the stripe, to go ahead and use the wood grain. And I like that decision because in the photos there's lots of like sand, and that little ape that my daughter and my niece and nephew are sitting on in that larger photo, it's bronze surrounded by like wood chips and stuff, and so there's a lot of brown in here, and so I thought that was a good way to bring a little bit of neutral into the layers here. So now I've got those all adhered down, and now I'm going to play again with the photos to see kind of how I can get these all stuck in there. I originally thought I was going to put the main photo up at the top just so it really stands out, but in the end I thought it poked up too much when I stuck it in the top layer, so I'll end up moving it down a little bit, and it still stands out I think as the main photo because it's a little bit larger. So I end up placing it where it is now, and I'm just going to keep playing around a little bit, and where the photos are now is pretty much where they end up. So now I'm just playing around with some of the 3x4 cards that came in the July kit and seeing if I can kind of slide some different things in. And the whole idea with this is that I wanted to be able to tuck a bunch of things into the layers, and I really wanted to use these little wood veneer tabs, and so that was one of the reasons I thought to do a layout like this, is because tabs look good when you place them on the edges of things, and there's lots of edges here for me to play around with. So I'm just kind of pulling a bunch of stuff. These are some of the little die cuts that came in the July kit, as well as that little sun up at the top right now is from the printable sheet. The Yes Please comes from a cut apart sheet that's included in the kit this month. And there's also, I will eventually also pull a few things from the Sunny Days die cut package as well. And there's a cut apart sheet that's a 12 by 12 like cut apart sheet in the Sunny Days pattern papers. And I'm going to use, I think there's one thing that I use from that as well. So I was just kind of playing around seeing how I could make this work. And because I can't quite decide exactly how I want it, I'm going to move on to my title. And I knew I wanted to use this alphabet. It's the Jonah alphabet from Elle Studio for my title. I love what a clean font it is. And I decided to stamp it in gray because I'm going to use that little July 3x4 card. And I wanted to bring in some more gray somewhere else. So I'm going to stamp the words "A Day at the Zoo" in gray. Not a very clever title, but it's true. And so I'm going to go ahead and use my little Elle Studio 3x4, what is that called? Stamping block to stamp out the words "A Day at the Zoo" in gray. After I stamp this all out in gray, what I'm going to do is something I've seen other people do, and I'm going to take some other colors and I'm going to stamp kind of a little shadow with a color. Now, at first I thought I would do all of it in this, this is Glacier ink from Close to My Heart. I thought I would do it all in that color, but I thought it might be fun to incorporate all of the colors that I've used in the layout. So I'm going to go ahead and use some orange as well. And the first generation of that ink is really, really dark orange. So I just stamped it off once and then stamped it. And that gives me the perfect kind of shade of orange. I want it to be really soft. So I'm going to stamp a few letters in each color, and then I'm going to choose, I'm using a bunch of different colors here. So now I've got some, I think this is Lemon Zest ink from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm going to stamp that on a few of the letters. And then I'll end with green, which there's really only green in the photos, and then on that little confetti triangle paper there is a little bit of green. So there's just going to be little pops of green, and it's not going to really show up anywhere else. But and I'm using some Sweet Leaf ink from Close to My Heart for the green. So just gonna stamp that down. And I really like the way this looks. It looks really cool, and it gives my title a very custom look, and I really like it. So I'll definitely be trying that again with other, it works really well with a fine line stamp like this, but I would like to try it with other stamps as well. So I will be doing that in the future. So now I'm going to play around with my layering, and I definitely want to use 2 of those little tabs. And so I'm thinking that since they match the wood grain paper, I'll put one at the top and one at the bottom, and then I've got the wood in the middle, the wood grain. And I'm also going to use some of the vellum hearts. So I'll do that here in just a second. So I decided that it was time for me to go ahead and glue down my photos so that I knew exactly where they were going to be on my layout, and then I could layer everything around them. So I'm just putting a little bit of adhesive on those so that I can still tuck things underneath and stuff like that. So now I've got those done, and I'm just trying to make the edges of the corners of the photos lie in an interesting way on the paper. So either going over the edges of the papers or staying within the edges of the papers, if that makes sense. And I also decided before I add anything else to my layering to go ahead and stitch these layers down. So I knew that I was going to stitch on the sides of this photo, so I just or not the photo, but of the papers. And so I just stitched down the left and right sides and along the bottom just where those papers are. So you'll see that I just stitch up to where the edges of the papers go, not all the way around the white. And then I'm just going to pull through the threads onto the back and secure them down with some washi tape. And then just trim off the excess. And that's how I usually do my stitches. Sometimes I let the threads hang down, but I most often tuck them on the back of the layout. So I'm just kind of evening up the edges here. There were some of the papers were hanging off the sides, and I'm really liking the way this is looking. It's gonna get a little bit busy, but that's okay. So I'm stapling down these 2 wood veneer tabs with my tiny attacher, and then I'm gonna go ahead and kind of play around with all of these layers. Now that sun that I'm playing with, that's from the printables. And I'm just going to tuck that right there and staple it on. So I'm just including staples in another area on the layout so that it kind of, they're incorporated in multiple locations. So now I'm going to play around with some more of these little die cuts. So the Big Smiles is a die cut that comes in the July kit, and then there are that little Family Time that's blue. That's in a little cut apart strip of labels that's also in the kit. That little Yay die cut is from the kit as well. And I'm just going to back that with some foam and pop it up. I like to make some things have a little bit more dimension, and because I have those 2 wood veneer pieces that have dimension, I thought I would include one more thing that has dimension. So just kind of trying to make my layers lie in an interesting way. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere that circle. I'll move it around once or twice before I'm done with this because I end up adding a few more layers. So here's where I'm kind of deciding. At first I thought I would add layers to around all of the photos, but in a second here, I'm going to decide that I need to concentrate all of my die cuts and embellishments kind of in a diagonal. And so I'm going to put 3 of these vellum hearts up at the top just to bring focus to the title. And I used my Xyron sticker maker to put adhesive on those. And I love that because it makes anything into a sticker, and there's adhesive on the entire back side of the die cut so you can't see the adhesive through it. And I just layered up 3 of them there to bring in some different colors. I thought I would use some of these stars, the acrylic stars that are, they're just like an exclusive Elle Studio thing this month. And I decided not to because I often don't mix stars and hearts on one layout. Sometimes I do. It's not a rule, but this time I was thinking, let's just go with hearts. So I wanted to incorporate some more hearts onto the layout as well. So I'm just kind of playing around with where I might want to put those. And they will end up in similar spots to where I have them right now, but I'm going to play around with them a little bit because I want the colors to look right when I lay them over the papers. And I was having a little bit of a hard time with that yellow heart, but I will eventually make it work. So just kind of still playing a little bit. I remembered that I wanted to include a few of these puffy stickers from the Sunny Days collection, and there was an orange one and a gray one, which was perfect because I needed a little bit more orange at the top and a little bit more gray at the bottom. So right here and happiness, make it onto the layout. And that's all I use for the puffy stickers, although all of them would have worked really well here, probably most of them. And now I'm looking through, so this is a cut apart sheet from the 12 by 12 paper that I just cut everything apart from it. It has 3x4 and 4x6 cards as well as some smaller labels and smaller squares. And I just cut it all apart and put it into a baggie like a die cut package because I figured I'd be more likely to use it that way. And so the little label that says the best comes from there. And I'm thinking about using that summertime. I felt like it really needed another little label or something down at the bottom right to just kind of reinforce my whole diagonal idea. And I don't end up keeping that there because I just thought it was too much orange, and I will switch it out for something else. So now I am playing with where I'm going to put that yellow heart. So I was having a problem with the yellow heart overlapping those multiple colors of blue. And so I just moved the happiness little puffy sticker over, and I'm going to put the yellow heart to the left instead of to the right. And I'm also going to layer up an aqua and a blue heart next to the word July. So there's that one. And then here I'm laying these down. And I think that it ends up working really well. So there we go. And now I'm looking for something else to stick in that spot because the summertime was too orangey for me. And I pulled out the Sunny Days die cuts, and there's a little one that's white and it says summer in aqua, and I thought that would be a good one to include here because I don't have any other die cuts down here that have the aqua color on them. And so I just go ahead and add that to my photo at the bottom right. And I am almost done now. I'm going to go ahead and write my journaling with, I have a gray Le Pen pen that I'm using to write my journaling. And after I write my journaling, I'm just going to add a few more finishing touches. The video will cut out before I add some gray ink splatters and a little strip of stars up at the top. And then I'm also going to add some enamel dots. And so you'll see those in the close-up photos. What I'm doing now is just writing little captions next to each photo because I didn't have enough space to write all of the journaling I wanted on that little July card. So I'm just writing a caption next to each photo. And now I'm going to look for my enamel dots, I believe. So I'm just going to add 2 to each little cluster, 2 next to the top, the bottom, and the middle. And like I mentioned, I will add some gray paint splatters and then a strip of gray stars, that's the branding strip from one of these pattern papers, up at the top. I hope that you've enjoyed, and as I'm recording this, there are still July kits available on Elle Studio, shopellestudio.com, so you can check that out, and go ahead and check out the blog post for this video at shopellestudio.com as well. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you very soon.